managers, park owners, they just want to collect rent. That's the biggest thing. They're just trying to rent the land. They do not want to deal with these houses. If we can come in and kind of take this burden off their plate, park managers don't typically want to sell properties. They don't want to fix them. So it's like, hey, we're really bringing a lot of value to them because they can focus on what they do best, which is collect.
This is the real estate investing experience. We get it. Real estate can be rough sometimes, and that's why we bring in the experts to talk about the experiences you won't hear anywhere else. With your hosts, John Cohen and Chris Grinzik.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Experience. I'm your host, Chris Grinzik. With me, as always, is John Cohen. How are we doing?
We are good. We're hanging in there. Another day, another dollar.
There you go. We're going to jump right into today's episode because I want to give them the full amount of time that we can. We were a couple minutes late getting started, so I want to introduce them, bring them onto the show. I'm really interested to hear their story because I don't know if I've met anybody doing quite what they do, so I'm really intrigued to hear their niche and what they've carved out for themselves. So that being said, Jay, Samera, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode.
Hey, we appreciate you having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you take a couple minutes to tell people listening who you guys are, where you're from, your journey, your background, and what you guys do?
For sure. So we started in Phoenix, Arizona, started our journey off in the 9-to-5 corporate world. After climbing the corporate ladder, doing that whole thing, we figured this just wasn't for us. We just weren't feeling fulfilled. We weren't feeling purposeful in what we were doing. And life started to be just a drag for us. So we started looking at different avenues where we can come together, take our strengths and weaknesses, and actually start a business together. So we tried a few things: network marketing. We tried personal training, looking into opening up a gym. And then randomly one day, then you get an email.
Yeah, I was going on Facebook. I saw a ad for a Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar. Like, hey, real estate, let's see what this is about. So we went to the seminar. We were completely inspired. We didn't even know people were doing this with real estate. And so we were like, man, this is something that really can complement both of us, both of our skills. Let's jump in. So we hopped in. We ended up finding a local mentor and a couple local mentors and jumped into a couple deals, but they didn't turn out too good at all. We actually, our first mentor, we put $30,000 on a fix and flip. He ended up taking that money and running. He was actually taking a lot of people's money, over $250,000, and just not putting it into the properties. The properties went into foreclosure, and he was out of the picture. And so that was $30,000 gone. And then he put $60,000 into a burnout property. We literally walked in there. There was no roof, barely any walls. I don't know what we were thinking. We were just like, we got to do this. This is an opportunity. And we were talking to our mentor. He was saying, oh, you'll get your money back in 3 to 4 months. We were naive. It didn't take 3 to 4 months at all, permits and everything. It took over 15 months to get our money back. So we were $90,000 in the hole within the first 6 months of actually getting into real estate. And we were like, man, what do we do from here? This is not good.
Yeah. So from there, we ended up actually deciding to just learn our way out of the situation. Luckily, we had some friends. They invited me to a seminar in a small room with a local RIA. And there was a guy there. He's like 80-something years old, but he was talking about doing somewhere between $20,000 to $30,000 per month, utilizing mobile homes. He's like, man, you guys are missing this big opportunity. He's not using much of his money, maybe somewhere between $5,000 to $7,000 per month to get these deals. And I took this information home. I ran home, told Samera about the mobile home investing opportunity. She told me, hell no, you're crazy, trailer trash. What are you thinking? This is ridiculous. But after we started doing our research, we saw, at least where we were in Phoenix, Arizona, there was a huge opportunity there. It was like a blue ocean. So long story short, to this day, we've done over 400 transactions. But I think our biggest success is really helping thousands of students throughout the country get their journey started and helping them close their first deal.
Love it. So, and just so we're clear, because I think it's interesting with the mobile home stuff, what are you guys doing exactly? Because there's several different things that people do. I want to understand, and anybody listening understand exactly what it is that you guys specialize in.
And we're doing a bunch of different things with mobile homes. So, what we do is teach 5 different strategies. We are doing brokering. We're doing wholesaling. We're doing quick cash deals. We're even doing buy and hold deals, and even moving homes from parks or off of land. The great thing about what we learned with the real estate side of things is the strategies are pretty similar. So all we did was just take those strategies and bring it into the mobile home investing world.
Yeah, and we focus on mobile homes in parks, so not on their own land. These are personal property. They're not technically real estate, so they're a lot faster to flip. You literally, most states, you just transfer title at the DMV. It's literally a signature on the back. A lot of the deals we do are cash deals because they're smaller amounts of money, but they're just really fast transactions.
Gotcha. So just so I'm clear, when you're talking about that, you're not buying the land. You're basically buying the home from somebody that owns it, that rents the land. You come in and buy a distressed property, you fix it up, make it nicer, and then you sell it to another owner. Do you sell it back to the park? A little bit of both. How does that work?
Yeah, so for the most part, for keeping it in the community, we're usually selling it to another owner, someone that's looking for affordable housing. They'll go and get approved in with the park, or sometimes there's buyers that we have that own a parcel of land and they want to move a home there so that they can take advantage of having the land and the mobile home combo. So they'll rent it out to someone or just sell that whole thing as a package.
Gotcha. I think that's really interesting. And I know I personally haven't heard a ton of people that are coming in and flipping mobile homes. John, have you heard that at all? I know you're more involved in the space.
So I've seen a couple people doing it. I could say that my buddy, Matt McCory, who's actually on our podcast earlier, has had he's fixing flipping houses, but he's had a wildly successful little niche that he's found by basically putting trailers and or mobile homes on pieces of land and sell, all in 40, 50 grand, selling them for 100, 120 grand relatively painlessly. He's backed into that on accident, but no, not at the scale, I believe, in which you guys, 400 transactions, not nearly that much. I know in the mobile home world, you don't want to own the homes. You want to sort of just own the dirt. So it's a very good, you find the right, if you can execute it and you're working with the right park owners, I'm sure it's super profitable because even, we're actually closing on a mobile home park next week, 7 park owned homes. And I'm doing everything in my power now to try selling them to get rid of, to get them off of my headache, no repairs, maintenance, I want to wash my hands of it. So no, not to that scale, but, my brain's been spinning, before this podcast talking about it because I've seen some cool opportunities. And I think this is going to be, I don't care about our listeners, quite frankly. I think it's going to be really helpful for me because, I think there are just so many opportunities in what you guys are doing. So I'm super excited to, see how this plays out.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a unique niche. A lot of people, they're just like you said, most real estate investors, they'll even get mobile home leads. They'll get these opportunities and they're like, trash, because they just don't know what to do with them. They don't understand. This is like a unique niche. You kind of have to understand. It's not single family. We don't fix the properties up to HGTV standard. These are, most of the time, our buyers will come in and do a lot of the repairs themselves. So we're just really flipping them really quickly.
Yeah, because of the affordable housing crisis that no one really talks about, we're actually serving a need. There's a lot of people that can't qualify for single family home. There's even more people that actually choose to just live a more affordable lifestyle. And when they're going out searching for homes, they're actually looking for people like us so that we can serve them, give them what they need.
So that's a huge, so we own an apartment complex. Most of our stuff is on the affordable side, not like program affordable or government affordable, just affordable in the grand schemes of, average median income and stuff like that. But our multifamily stuff is extremely, normally 9 out of 10 times heavier lifting, no cash flow. So the mobile home space for me was exactly that need. Everything being built now is super high-end, Class A, unaffordable rents. You could get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 3-bedroom, 1-bath trailer for significantly cheaper than a house and or, on par with a house, but you don't have the ongoing expenses of a house. You're typically paying a lot rent, which is significantly cheaper than, a lot of other components. I think the affordable housing is huge because I remember when I started getting into mobile home space, it was December 2017. As a former finance guy, I remember standing in Texas, in Austin, Texas, with my buddy. I said, if you would have told me 10 years ago that I'd be touring mobile home parks, I would have told you that something significantly messed up in my life that I would be standing at this point. But I looked at it as a space to say there's no such thing as affordable housing left in this country. This is the last space, and it's a dwindling market. I mean, you have homes getting demoed every day. You have parks getting torn down every day. So there's a massive demand and no supply. So I know one question I want to ask you guys is, because I know right now the inventory for used homes, it's difficult to come across them. What are you guys doing to, strike up demand or to get the inventory in to buy, flip, sell, broker, to put those transactions together? Because, good supply is bad, because there's a lot of parks that you could buy a house, but you can't tow it because, it's going to fall apart or it's at the end of its life. So what are you guys doing to, strike up that business?
Yeah. So we have, it's typically just like any other real estate business. We do a ton of different marketing, online, offline, and we're really searching for motivated sellers. And in these mobile home parks, there's a lot of sellers that may be getting evicted, or they're going through their own crisis, where we can kind of step in, we can give them a reasonable offer, save them from the situation that they're going through. A lot of the 55 and over communities, we run into, children inheriting their properties because their parents passed away. So we're just looking for motivated sellers, and we're able to kind of come in, solve their problem, and be able to find these properties.
Yeah, one of the easiest ways for anybody just getting started, one is just networking with different park managers. A lot of them, they have trouble, selling their own homes. That might not be their specialty. So they always need help. Like you mentioned, sometimes there's individuals that are being evicted, or sometimes they just know someone is struggling selling their home. The other thing is just networking with realtors. Those were our bread and butter when we first started off. Park managers and realtors. You mentioned earlier that a lot of realtors that come across these leads, they just don't have a good game plan, a good exit strategy on what to do with these leads. So that's where we come in the picture, and we look to partner with them. Most realtors, they need some type of funding for their own marketing budget. So instead of letting these leads just go in the trash, we're here to serve them, put some money in their pocket as well.
Yeah, so a lot of networking, a lot of marketing, and just getting inside of the communities and figuring out how we can serve and how we can help.
So I love that, because I think people hear mobile home park, not unsimilar to myself, not unsimilar to you guys, and they just get a stigma of what the fuck, right? It's like, I don't want to touch that space. There's going to be a meth head. There's going to be a meth. They're going to be building, selling meth, and nobody wants to touch that space. So it's very simple for a realtor to say, I don't want to deal with this, or even wholesalers, fix and flippers. Anybody out there, or a park owner that's buying a park with 80% park owned homes, right? So there's definitely a way, if anyone's listening, when they're listening, this is a super problem, because it's also you can find distressed situations in that space. And you're right, you're not talking about major capital outlays and renovations. You're not fixing these things to HG standards with granite and tile and backlight. And even if you do, and you wanted a higher end park, talk about some of those costs, because it's not, they're small spaces. So inevitably your costs are less. So what is a typical transaction, on a fix and flip or a buy and sell? What does a typical transaction look like for you guys?
So typical for us right now, we're going in, we're finding homes. We're usually spending somewhere under $10,000 for a home. So we might get a home for $9,000. We might see that home, we can sell it as is on the market right now for somewhere around $25,000. But we always look to sell it, of course, beneath market value. We'll probably flip it to double our money, put it on the market for somewhere around 22, 21, sell it for 18. Now you just made $9,000 off of the money. Whenever we're getting into fix and flip situations, again, we're looking for homes under $10,000. We might find an opportunity where we're able to get it for about $5,000. We usually like to keep our repairs mostly below $6,000, and that's when you're doing a lot of the big 5 major repairs, like the AC, the roofing, the subflooring, electrical, and the plumbing. Usually, for the most part, on average, we're spending no more than about $3,000 to $4,000 on our repairs. So even if we spent $5,000, we're all in for 10. We know we can go and sell that home for that, go get that $25,000 that we're looking for, or we can sell it on payments. We can do some type of buy and hold and get somewhere between $30,000 all the way up to about $40,000, depending on the size of the home and the actual park rating. The park.
Yeah, most of the time we know that our buyers will make a lot of the cosmetic repairs, so we're not going in and doing all of the countertops and making everything brand new, fresh. Not that other investors don't do that. There are other investors in this space that do kind of complete remodels, and they want it to look, to a certain standard. It's just our model to flip quickly. So we're not handy people. We're not contractors. We don't really want to get into all of that. We just want to make the home safe and affordable. So when someone walks in there, sell it at a slight discount so they can actually go in and do a lot of the work themselves.
What type of, I mean that model is great, right? You try and not do the stuff that, don't be the designer, right? Fix the 5 major issues. We talk about the same thing, the deferred maintenance, the stuff that, you put it back together, super clean, safe, and affordable. But can you talk to the point where, how do you overcome, or what do you guys do, like to mobile home park owners, when you guys come in and buy a house and fix it up and then sell it, how does that conversation, or how do you facilitate that conversation with the owner where now you guys are paying the lot rent, or what do you do in that regards to, we've had a ton of mobile home people on here, park owners. How do you facilitate that, or how do you recommend investors facilitate that with the owner who, wants to have some qualification of the people living there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're always saying, go and lead with value. Whenever you're working with a park manager, any type of park, make sure they understand the value you're looking to present to them. So a lot of the time when we're buying homes, especially keeping them in the community and fixing them up, we're literally asking them like, hey, do you guys have any struggles filling homes? And when we're fixing these homes up, like, what do you want the exterior of the home to look like? How can we bring it up to park standard? When you're doing that, when you're basically asking them, hey, how can I serve you? They're not looking at you as a poacher. There are some non-investor friendly park managers out there that'll look at you like, oh, you're going to buy this home and move it out. A lot of the time when we're fixing flipping, we want to actually keep it there. We want to build a relationship with that park manager, and then we want to make it really easy for our buyer to come in, get qualified and buy the home, make any type of repair that they want to make. But for the most part, we're just leading with value.
Yeah, and we like to kind of do a pre-approval process on the buyer, so we're not just. When the crazy thing is when we post these properties, we're getting hundreds of hits because they're affordable. We usually list them a little bit below market value. And so we're getting a ton of people really interested in getting into these homes. So we do our own pre-qualifications before we send them to the park. So they're not getting, bombarded with a bunch of people. They're getting in. We're just finding the best people, the most motivated buyers to actually go in, get qualified, and then we close the deal once they're there.
We're literally asking the park manager, like, how can we protect your time? Like you said, we're not sending a bunch of people. Usually for us, it's no more than 2 people. And we usually try to get that application early on. We literally have those in a drawer somewhere in the kitchen in the house so that when the buyer goes in, if they really love the home, they can get the application done, even submit it online. Many parks are being receptive to that option, and really just taking time off of their plate and figuring out, like, how can we make your life easier? That's what we're going to do.
No, that's a huge component. I think anyone, I don't care what you're doing, right? Real estate, if you lead with value and provide value, you get a return on your time better than anything else. If you go in there and try and, finagle it, or if you say, how can I help you? You're going to get a much better bang for your buck. And, as a park owner, the less that I have to do and worry about, the happier I am. And that's just life in general. So if someone's coming in and fixing my problems, a vacant property and or a park owned home that, is looking to sell, and I don't have to deal with it, and I don't have to deal with the transactions and just sign the lease, I'm the happiest person in the world. So I think that's important for anyone listening. Obviously, 1, providing value, and 2, you're helping out people. So as long as you know that and you portray that, you should have positive, feedback from whoever you're dealing with.
Yeah, and we get a lot of students that say, hey, are you guys transparent with the park manager? Do they need to know how much you're making? For us, most of the time, park managers don't ever ask like how much we're actually profiting on the home. So you don't need to have that head trash, that stigma in your head. Just lead with the value. Let them know your intention. Let them know what you plan to do. But as long as you're doing what you said you were going to do, you're going to have no problems with the park manager. You're usually not going to have to disclose what you're making on the deal.
And from what we learned from this experience is like, hey, park managers, park owners, they just want to collect rent. That's the biggest thing. They're just trying to rent the land. They do not want to deal with these houses. If we can come in and kind of take this burden off their plate, park managers don't typically want to sell properties. They don't want to fix them. So it's like, hey, we're really bringing a lot of value to them because they can focus on what they do best, which is collecting the rent.
Most owners don't want to own the mobile home.
Yeah.
So.
I'm the first to admit it. You try and get rid of them as fast as possible. I mean, we contemplate just giving them to the tenants there to get it off your plate, right? Here you go, pay me a rent to own premium or a rent credit premium for 5 years, whatever it is. But you don't want to deal with it. It's just, that's how your operating expenses as a mobile home park owner go down dramatically. When you don't have to fix anything, touch anything, let the tenant deal with it, put good people in there, they never leave. That's the name of the game. So your value is, astronomical to anyone like myself, anyone listening. It's a great way to get started. Providing value to an absolute highly demand need in this country.
Yep.
So I have a quick question. You said, you get 100 people that look at a home, and even if it was 50, that can be an overwhelming number. To bring it down to 2 or 3 or 4 highly qualified people. One, how do you manage that process? Because it can be very daunting. And not only how do you manage it, how do you streamline it so it doesn't take a ton of your time? Because it sounds like it could almost be more work than the actual fixing up of the property. How do you guys manage that part of the transaction?
Yeah. So we have VAs that kind of help us with a lot of the screening, the pre-screening. A lot of the times it's a lot online through email, through messaging, getting through to those buyers and kind of pre-qualifying them. A lot of the times the homes that we are selling are vacant, so we're able to kind of send them through the properties without us having to show the property to all these people. But we do a lot of pre-qualification surveys and getting on the phone before we actually send them to the property.
And a lot of the time, what we're making sure to do is we understand who is going into the home, because like Samera said, with our VAs, we're making sure that they go through a very strenuous process, make sure we're not wasting our time, make sure they're not wasting their time. And there's a great thing out there called lock boxes. A lot of the homes are vacant, so as long as we have that lock box on the door, we get an ID, we understand who that person is going into the home. Even if that home is in another state, we can utilize some boots on the ground. Maybe our students, maybe even partner with the park manager, have them take the ID before they walk into the home. We're making sure that, first of all, screening the buyer and then protecting our time as much as possible.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, depending on the property, there could be multiple buyers that jump on these properties within the first few days. It's really about urgency. Who is the most motivated? Who's actually following the procedures? Who's willing to go jump through those hoops to actually get into the properties? It may sound kind of weird, but in this space, we have a lot more demand than we have supply, like we mentioned earlier. And so we have to just really focus on the people that are really ready and can prove that they have the income and they can prove that they're motivated to get into the property.
And for anyone that's new in the field, you can't trust every buyer. Every buyer that goes and walks the home, they might say that they want it, and then 24, 48 hours later, they're just ghosts. They're nowhere to be found. So what we like to do is making sure that we collect a earnest money deposit is refundable if you're not approved to live in the community.
Yep. I think that's important to run people through a process, right? Because it'll weed out garbage quicker, right? If they can't come up with a deposit and they really want it, they're never going to buy it. So I think, for anyone putting any processes in place, that is super important to take a lead from any marketing through that process. Because if they get through the finish line, and it might be 1 out of 50 or 2 out of 50, like you said, but when they get through the finish line, 1, your time is significantly saved because you're not doing it, right? It's probably a lot of automated stuff. 2, when they get to the back end, they're going to come to the table and they'll probably close relatively quickly. And that's what you want. You don't want to be running and showing mobile home parks, whether it's you, a realtor, and a manager, whoever it is. You don't want to be doing that, 5, 7, 8, 9 showings. You want to buy it, fix it, do what you got to do with it, and get rid of it and get it off your books as quickly as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about having the right processes and systems in place. So like you said, it's automated. It takes a lot less of our time, and we're just focused on kind of squeezing them through the funnel till we find that person that's like, this is the one that wants it, and they're going to stand out because they're going to follow the procedures through the process.
And you talked about it earlier, there's not a lot of supply for this home. So we get hundreds of responses, especially with our double wides, because there's not many of them out there. So, when they're on the market, you're creating a sense of urgency around these homes. There's going to be people throwing money at you at any given opportunity.
Love it. I want to touch on one question because we've talked about how well these things can do. And you talked about some failures early on. And I love to hear people's failures. I'm sure after doing 400, you have had some that haven't gone well. Excuse me. What are some of the things people should look out for as they're thinking about this? Like, what are some problems you've learned or things that you need to avoid or you need to discount that, maybe it costs way more than you thought, or it's just a headache of a problem? What are some of those things that have come up that have either lost you money, made it take longer, or created some problems?
And I'm sure we have different opinions over this, but mine would be making sure that, even though we don't need general contractors in this space, we usually utilize handyman on like the single family home realm. Making sure that you even qualify the handyman, make sure they have pictures of their work, make sure you're getting some type of testimonials or referrals, and also not giving one handyman that you just met a new relationship too many jobs. So we did that when we first started one of our first fix and flip deals. We gave a handyman everything, gave him the flooring, the painting on the interior, the exterior. There was some electrical work that needed to be done. There was even some plumbing work that needed to be done. Everything was okay until we put the home on the market. The day we put the home on the market, we put the for sale sign up in the window. We go and we test the toilets in the home. We flush the toilet, and then there's crap literally coming out of the toilet and the tub. So
and even off the roof, we were like, how did this happen? Yeah, and like there were people trying to walk through it, and we're trying to like get somebody to clean it. It was a hot mess, and it was hard to kind of manage someone that's doing a little bit of everything and not having like a specific deadline. And it's just something that we had to learn how to project manage our handyman. So I think, like you said, vetting them is really important. I think where a lot of people make mistakes in the mobile home market is that they don't really understand how to find the values of these homes. Unlike traditional real estate, there's just not a lot of data online. There's not an MLS where you can kind of go and research and do comps. You really have to kind of get out in the field, get in the parks, and really understand the values in a different type of way. And so I think where a lot of people make mistakes is they try to put it in a box, but a 5-star mobile home community could be right across the street from a 1-star mobile home community. So you cannot compare the homes in those parks because they're completely different. Or even in the park, you may have a brand new, 2018 mobile home right next to a 1970s mobile home. And so even though they're the same square footage, they're completely different. They sell for a completely different price. So I think getting into it, just learning how to evaluate these homes, analyze the deals, really figure out what will the market pay for this type of property. There is a value on it, but we just have to get more clear. It's not as cut and dry as real estate.
So is there a way on that last point of finding value to go out and start collecting the data? Is it just tracking, sales for 6 months? Is it talking to the park managers? What are some of the best practices you found for people to understand, hey, what is my, ARV, or what can I sell this for in, 3, 6, 12 months?
Yeah, the first thing is, like you mentioned, park managers. That's kind of like your bread and butter when you're just starting out. If you've got a home, there's no reason you can't go in and just test with the park manager, figure out what homes similar to that home are selling for. And we always like to say, hey, check within a 2 to 3 mile radius of other parks within the area, making sure you're calling, networking with those park managers and asking them the same type of question.
Yeah, and it's a lot of evaluating your buyers and who is actually willing to understanding the market in your area, because the market's different in most states. You have to really understand what your buyers will pay and what types of properties they're looking for. And so, like you said, evaluating the home sales and what a typical, in this condition, what will the home sell? It's a lot of testing the market as far as finding out what the values are. One
of the great tools we have in mobile home investing is MH Village. So how real estate has like Zillow and Trulia, we have MH Village. So on MH Village, you can at least look at different parks within your area and see like what's on the market being sold right now, and filter it down by the year and the size, even family or senior community, or you can see, what's been sold in the past few months. So that tool is very useful when you're just starting out.
Gotcha. I think that's helpful. And that was MH, like mobile home, and then Village, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Is that something, just want to be clear, is that something you guys put together, or is that like another company like Trulia?
It's actually a separate company. They're the largest online, buying and selling marketplace for mobile homes in the world.
Awesome. No, I think that's definitely helpful. And I think anybody listening to, like any other type of real estate or investing, the longer you do it, and the more you kind of get in the weeds and underwrite properties, whether you buy them or not, that's what's really going to help you start to understand the market and what things can be bought and sold for and what renovations are going to cost. If you try to step into this day one and you think you know what things are going to cost, you're wrong. If you think you know what it's going to sell for, you're wrong. So just understand that you're going to get better and better the longer this goes, and that you're not going to spend, or you're not going to waste time that you spend looking at deals, doing the grunt work, understanding what it may or may not cost you. It's not time wasted, even if you don't buy that deal. As long as you are not getting stuck in that analysis paralysis and you're just doing homework to understand the market and what things sell for in that distress state and what they sell for in improved states and what they sell for in, the HGTV standard. As long as you understand what all those parameters are, you're moving forward. Just don't let it stop you. That is not time wasted. It's going to serve you going forward. Just understand the first couple of deals. Maybe you strike gold, maybe you don't. But like you heard from these two, after doing 400, you're going to have deals that do phenomenally well, and you're going to have deals that kind of shit the bed. So just understand that, again, go for the long haul. Don't go for the quick cash. I know, the great thing about these deals is the quick turnaround and the ability to generate some quick cash, but understand that in the business sense of things, this is a long game, and things are going to go well and things are going to go poorly. And I'm sure, the two of you have, some pretty good war stories and some, funny events over the years that you can look back fondly, but, through that fire, you've kind of tempered a business plan that, can withstand a lot of those, and your wins outweigh your losses. Is there anything when you guys are looking at homes, any years or physical property aspects that you guys just totally avoid? You're like, that's not worth it. Like anything built before the 70s, it's just, you might as well throw it in the dumpster.
Yeah, it's actually, for us, it's anything built before 1976. We're usually staying away from those. We call those pre-HUD homes. So really, there were just regulations on how these homes were to be made. They were actually put in place safety standards that all homes and factories must adhere to with homes built after 1976. The reason we don't like the pre-HUD homes too much is because a lot of the time when we find these homes, if they're not in 55 plus communities, in the family communities, they're usually beat up, they're usually trashed, they usually have issues with like the ventilation, AC, even the electrical wiring in the home. If it's a double wide, we will look at it. Single wides, we usually stay away from those. I don't remember the last time we did one of those.
Yeah, and if they are pre-HUD, built before 1976, then most of the time they cannot be moved. And so that shrinks our buyer's pool even more. And like Jay said, they're a little bit, they're not built as quality as homes built a little bit more than that. So we kind of stay away from those. I would say another thing is the 1-bedroom models, usually, especially in family parks. In senior parks, it's a little bit easier because seniors are, a lot of times they're by themselves or they're trying to downsize. But in a family park, they're going into these communities because they want space. And so trying to sell a 1-bedroom in a family park can be challenging for sure.
And this is just, relative to us. We will say, this isn't law in all markets. We'll find pre-HUD homes out in California selling for $50,000-$60,000. Like, what's going on? And then we'll find that our students find success making somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000, and their first deal is a pre-HUD home. So this is all relative to like your actual location.
When you guys are moving homes, like you spoke about, maybe a guy owns a piece of land and wants to put a home on it. Do you, if you do something like that, do you get involved with any of the utilities like water, sewer? Do you or you trying to avoid that and say, yeah, we have a trailer, we could put it here, but that's on you? Or what's your recommendation there?
Yeah, the cool thing is by being an investor, you have your license. Being a dealer is you're only responsible for buying and selling homes. Most of the time, we're not just selling the home and just, all right, we're out of here. We usually are networked with a few mobile home movers in our area. So what we'll do is we'll take our buyer. Most of the time, they need help with finding a mover. So we'll just connect the two. And usually it's the buyer's responsibility to make sure everything is properly done when it comes to separating those utilities from the mobile home. And usually we're making sure that our mover is qualified to do so that they're not bringing on a headache.
Yeah, and the only times we would be responsible for managing those utilities and getting that move is if we're moving a mobile home into a park and reselling it in place. But a lot of the times those mobile home parks already have a lot of that set up. They already have the spaces and the
utility line.
Yeah, the utility line. So it's a lot easier to move a home into a park than onto maybe a vacant piece of land where you have to get all that set up.
As you've been doing all these transactions and you've been in this world, I think a lot of people, whether it's fixing, flipping this, or just fix and flipping single family or wholesaling, eventually want to transition into owning stuff as well and going into that rental model. Has this helped you guys transition into actually buying parks? And has any of those relationships you've fostered led to, deals or opportunities, whether you've bought them yourselves or, brokered it to somebody else or wholesaled it to somebody else?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. We just got offered a park opportunity deal. We decided to actually decline on that. That just came a couple of weeks ago, but we're more so looking at the mobile homes on land opportunity. We know exactly how to go and find these vacant pieces of land, especially when they have the utility lines already set up, and we know how to go and find these mobile homes. Like, why are we not packaging these together ourselves? So the opportunity is here, and this is actually something that we're actively working on with a few of our accelerator students as well, partnering with them to just be pioneers in this space, get out of mobile home parks and actually start to work on mobile homes on land, get back into the real estate side of things.
So you guys, that's why I was super intrigued. I think there's a great opportunity for that's why I asked the question, do you get involved or not? Because finding land's I don't want to say it's the easy part, but if you find the right piece of land, and as my buddies proved out, if you put a mobile home on it, you can make real money. So we could definitely either have a part two or we could talk offline, but I think there's a ridiculous niche for that product, right? A one-off 10, 5, 3, 1 acre piece of property, drop a home on it. I'm in it for X, sell it for Y, and walk away. I think there's a ton of money there. So we could continue that dialogue because I think it's just super intriguing. That's a lot of the notes I've been taking down because, my brain's been spinning. As I said, I was excited for this because I think there's a ton of money to be made in that space. And there's a plethora of opportunities out there. There's no shortage of vacant land.
There's more mobile homes on land than there are mobile homes in parks. So.
Yeah, so the opportunity is wide open, and a lot of the times there's just no connection between the two. People know how to find the vacant land or the land with the old junky mobile home, but they don't know how to find the mobile home. So being able to bridge the two, and like you said, even subdivide the land into multiple homes on the land. There's a lot that you can do by developing the land and putting homes on there.
Love it. That's
So I want to understand, because I don't, and very quickly, I know we're running on time and we're not going to stray this. When you say mobile home on land versus mobile home in a park, is that because there's no utility connection and there's not the ability to add multiple homes? Is that what that is? Like someone just bought land and dropped a mobile home on it?
Well, I'll go ahead.
So in order to actually put the home as a functional home on the land, there is a process that you have to do to get the utilities set up. It's not that you can just drop a mobile home there and it's going to be livable. In order to resell it, especially if you want to get financing on it, there's a whole process that you have to go through. But that is doable. And I think there's a ton of opportunity, especially if the utilities and those lines are set up to subdivide the land and create multiple homes on the land, or even just put a newer home and sell it for a lot more money than if there's a junky home on there.
Yeah, you're talking about the process of really just affixing the home to the land. Mm-hmm. With mobile homes in parks, they're considered just chattel, personal property, because they're technically not affixed to the land. So you just own the home. But of course, with the land side, it's actually considered real estate when you have that mobile home affixed to the land. We're still trying to get a lot of banks to understand that and be able to loan on those properties. That's a process. There's some out there that will. But yeah, I hope that answered that question for you.
Gotcha. Partially, it's something I need to understand more, but I'm excited to learn about it. We are running up against time, so I do want to cut it off, be respectful of that. Jay, Samera, thank you so much for coming on. If people want to learn more about you, connect with you, follow you, where can they do all that stuff?
Yeah, so the best place to connect with us and to just learn more about what we do is on YouTube. We have a ton of free content and a ton of free trainings on there. So you can go to youtube.com Facebook.com/Trailer Cash Academy, and cash with a C. And you can also find us on Facebook. We have a page there as well, Trailer Cash Academy.
Beautiful. We'll include both those links in the description below and in the show notes. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you're not already subscribed, it would mean the world to John and I if you would. And if you are, please send it to a friend, a family member, a colleague, a coworker, somebody you know off the street that you think would get a ton of value out of it. Jay, Samera, thank you once again for coming on. It was hugely informational. I learned a ton, and I'm sure everybody listening did as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you both for having me.